Welcome to Beatrice Weekly Health Tips. My subject today is heavy metals, and I call them ticking bombs because they are really ticking bombs. So, what are heavy metals? They are minerals, but they are heavier than others. So, this is mercury, aluminum, cadmium, silver, it could be iron as well. There are many others, and we can find them certainly in very, very small quantity, a little bit in our bodies, a little bit in animal bodies. The problem with heavy metals now is that we have too much of them, and they are in many places. There are different sources. So where do we find heavy metals and why are they in excess in our modern times? The first reason is certainly pollution. You'll find heavy metals in not normal quantities, for example, in water because of industries. Industries uh, will dump their waste material, and they have done that for many years. There is more regulation now, but still, it's not ideal. They dump their waste material in the water. Typical example was the tanning industry, making leather that polluted rivers to a great extent. And in these rivers, we found a lot of heavy metals. The air is polluted with heavy metals now because of airplanes and also all the satellites and things that fall on our heads, but mostly airplanes with chemtrails. The soil is is polluted also with heavy metals, and that is due to agrobusiness. Pesticides, fertilizers are usually not balanced for the soil and will bring too much of these metals. And of course, the food that we eat becomes polluted because of all the above, the water, the air, and the soil. So it's very hard now to find food that I would say is really good and healthy for the body, unless you buy organic, unless you grow yourself, unless you buy from a farmer that doesn't use pesticides, at least not the kind that really are rich in heavy metals and destroy the soil. Other sources of heavy metals, and that's probably, in my opinion, the most important reason that I find heavy metals in my patients' bodies, are amalgams, dental fillings. Dental fillings with heavy metals have been used since World War II. And of course, when you have a cavity, you have to put something in there to fill out the hole. So dentists have used dental amalgams since they started using dentistry. And in there, you'll find mercury, you'll find aluminum, you'll find cadmium, you'll find lead, you'll find silver, etc. Now, these amalgams were not supposed to leach, but in reality, they do, and they have done that for many years. It doesn't matter if your amalgam filling was put in 2 years ago, 6 months ago, or 20 years ago. There are more chances that it leach out if you had it a long time, but they're still leaching out on a short period of time. This has been proved. So what happens when these minerals are leaching out? Well, they're reabsorbed through the bloodstream into the lungs, into the brain, into the digestive system, and anywhere else. Once they go through the bloodstream, they can go anywhere. The big problem is when they go to the brain, because the brain will get intoxicated, basically, will get damaged by the heavy metals. And this is a main reason why we're seeing an epidemic of autism. As you know, I specialize in GAPS diet and helping autistic kids, and every single child that we test has heavy metal in their brain. And this is really a tragedy. But heavy metals will also affect your immune system, so you could develop autoimmune disease from heavy metal pollution. Or you can develop liver disease or kidney disease, or you can develop osteoporosis. The metals tend to go instead of minerals and replace calcium, magnesium, sodium, potassium, etc. So I have seen often as an underlying cause of osteoporosis too much heavy metal in some people's body. What you have to know also is that heavy metal can cross the placenta. So a mom that still has amalgam fillings in her mouth and is pregnant has the risk to pass on to her child heavy metals. So babies are born with a toxic load of heavy metals. Third source of heavy metals are, of course, vaccines. And I said, of course, because now it's really well known with all the information that we have that excipients in vaccines are mercury in the name of thimerosal. Mercury in vaccines supposedly be removed, but this is not the case in every single vaccine and in 100%. But they removed that supposedly and replaced it with aluminum. But aluminum is also very toxic for the brain, and this is proven. Aluminum is linked to Alzheimer's disease. It's linked to autism. It's linked to Parkinson's disease. So it's not a better idea to put aluminum instead of mercury in vaccines. I have seen a vaccine for one member of my family that they don't listen to me. The parents don't listen to me. And the baby was supposed to receive his first vaccine at 1 month of age. It was pneumococ, so it's for lung pneumonia prevention. And so there was in the vaccine 0.125 milligram of aluminum, which drives me absolutely crazy and worried about this kid. But anyway, they did the vaccines despite my advice. So these things are extremely toxic for the immune system and extremely toxic for the brain, and will lead to all the epidemic of autism and ADD, ADHD, learning disabilities, etc. Fourth source of heavy metal, the fish. We have a polluted ocean, polluted seas, so we have polluted fish. And the bigger the fish, the more mercury they tend to have. I usually don't recommend to eat tuna or swordfish for that reason. Instead, you can eat small fish, sardines, mackerels, anchovies, etc. They do have way less mercury and heavy metal and polluted. So what to do if you know that you have heavy metal? First of all, how do you know that you have heavy metal toxicity? Well, you need to test yourself. Doing a blood test doesn't do any good unless your heavy metal pollution happened within the past week. But if it's more than that, then there is no point. It won't show up into the blood. It can show up into hair, into urine, and into stools. However, these tests are not bulletproof. And it's kind of very hard to test heavy metal because they hide in the tissue. So you can have heavy metal in your brain or in your kidneys, and it won't show up in any of these tests. There is other ways to interpret the test and to assume that it may be in there. What I've done so far is look at some of these tests, and even if the person has not done the test, I just assume that they have it because we live in a polluted world, and if the kid has been vaccinated, then they have it. If the mom has heavy metal in her mouth and when she was pregnant, they have it. If they have eaten a lot of fish and tuna, they have it. If they have dental amalgams, they have it. So I tend to systematically now do a heavy metal protocol, which consists of giving them sulfur in the form of MSM. MSMs will pull heavy metal out of the tissue. Then I give them chlorella and activated charcoal to absorb the metals that are pulled out of the tissue. I give vitamin C in order for the body to be protected. Vitamin C acts as an antioxidant. And I'm very picky about vitamin C. The only one that I really recommend is called Pure Synergy from the Synergy company. And it's made of amla powder and acerola powder, two fruits that are very rich in vitamin C. That's the only vitamin C I recommend because that's the only whole vitamin C. It's not just the ascorbic acid part of the vitamin C. And I also give quinton. Quinton is minerals. It comes from seawater harvested in the north shore of France in a place that is not polluted, in a place where plankton are very rich, and the plankton are actually cleaning up the water. This quinton comes in big ampules. You take 1 ampule a day as a long-term treatment. When you have your amalgams removed, I recommend to take 1 ampule 3 times a day. There's 2 kinds of quinton. One is called isotonic and the other one is called hypertonic. I always start with the isotonic, which is less concentrated, and if the person tolerates it well, then I use the hypertonic. Now, you also have to work on your gut flora because it's the gut flora that chelates heavy metals if your flora is healthy. I also recommend to see a holistic dentist. For me, that's a mandatory. If you work with me or someone like me and you want to improve your health, you have to see a holistic dentist and stop seeing your regular dentist. They're making too much damage. Sorry. And then for vaccines, well, there is a lot of information about that. You can look at the movie called Vaxxed, Vaxxed, that came out in 2016 and talks about the problem of heavy metals in vaccines and how they have damaged the gut flora of the kids. It's also the story of Dr. Andrew Wakefield, a researcher, doctor in England, that proved the connection between vaccines and autism. But he was dismissed in England for doing a good job, of course, immigrated to the US, and he's kind of making a comeback now by telling his story. And he has a lot of parents behind him, a lot of associations that are working and diffusing the information about the toxicity of vaccines. So this is it for today. I hope this was a good information for you, and if you want to know more, please contact me through my website or my email, or leave a comment in this podcast. I wish you a wonderful week and see you soon. Bye-bye.